Welcome back, dear viewers. Now it's time for our daily press review, and we are joined here in the studio with Mr. Amr Abdel Rahman. He's a political analyst. Good morning.
Good morning to you, dear viewers.
And we start off from اليوم السابع newspaper, and we read the following headline. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi meets with head of the Suez Canal Authority and Minister of Housing. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met on Monday with the head of the Suez Canal Authority, Admiral Mohab Mamish. During the meeting, Mamish reviewed the workflow in the Suez Canal Authority, pointing out that the traffic in the canal registered a record last week in the number and tonnage of the passing ships. He said that 67 huge ships passed in both directions without waiting, adding that a giant container ship carried out the largest maneuver to rotate in front of the East Port Said port. Also, Monday, President met with the Minister of Housing, Mustafa Madbouli. The President was briefed on the executive position of the project to develop the sewage stations of the Kima 1 and 2 in Aswan. So first, sir, let's comment on President Fattah al-Sisi's meeting with Admiral Mohab Mamish. And in your opinion, to what extent the inauguration of the new Suez Canal contributed to make a quantum leap in the canal's ability to receive huge numbers and loads of all types of ships?
We are now witnessing progress, results, very important, positive results here to the north and to the east-north at the Suez Canal, and of course to the south and Aswan, and in the middle of each and every city in the country. We are witnessing a true progress. We are fighting against terrorism along with building and making a better future for generations to come.
And moving to Al-Wafd, and we read Prime Minister inaugurates the Arab Ministerial Conference on Terrorism and Social Development. Prime Minister Sharif Ismail inaugurated on Monday the Arab Ministerial Conference entitled Terrorism and Social Development, Causes and Handling, which is held in Sharm el-Sheikh under the auspices of President Fattah al-Sisi for 2 days. In his speech to the conference, the Prime Minister said that Egyptian legislations have made the fight against terrorism more disciplined and clear. The Prime Minister added that the development of religious discourse represents one of the pillars of Egypt's policy to counter terrorism. The Prime Minister said that Egypt's efforts at both Arab and international levels in all international forums emphasizes the full coordination at all levels to eliminate terrorism. So let's focus first on the significance of holding this conference this time, and to what extent the development of religious discourse represents one of the pillars of fighting terrorism.
Not only one of the pillars, but it's the main pillar here. We would like to remember the great victories achieved in Halal Mountain, achieved by our military forces, our true fighters for terrorism, against terrorism. Those who fight against terrorism in Sinai right now is the true leaders against in the war against terrorism. Those victories we have accomplished is just not only preparing the land for a better life and a true progress in Sinai for the people there, but also setting the example for the world, the whole world, how to fight against terrorism. That mountain that is liberated totally from elements of intelligence from other countries are just very important significance to achieve and to be set aside, along with other important moves taken at the same course, politically and diplomatically and militarily, of course.
Moving to اليوم السابع newspaper, and we read Foreign Minister Sameh Shukri meets U.S. Secretary of State. Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry met on Monday with U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson in Washington in the first meeting bringing them together. During the meeting, the top diplomats discussed efforts to combat terrorism and boosting relations between the two countries. Foreign Ministry spokesman Councillor Ahmed Abu Zaid said in a press statement that the meeting witnessed the emphasis on the depth of the strategic relations between the two countries for decades. We also discussed ways to boost these relations in the coming period in light of the new U.S. administration. The top diplomats also exchanged views on a number of regional issues, especially in the framework of common interests to support stability and peace in the Middle East. So first, the significance of this visit, and again we find that terrorism is topping the agenda of the talks. So what's your take on this?
And it's the only thing we have in common, of course, truly have in common with the new administration at the White House. Fighting against terrorism, the terrorism that was created by the CIA and other, I don't want to say people. We are talking about intelligence, we are talking about regime.
Yes.
Now the regime in the U.S. is changing, and Mr. Trump is truly fighting a true compact against the Zionist lobbyers, against the Muslim Brotherhood lobbyers in the States. We have that common view against what is terrorism is, the basics about terrorism. That's why we are fighting the same battle, side by side, but only at this front only. We have only that common, of course, along with historical relations with the American people, of course.
Yes. And moving to Al-Ahram newspaper, and the German ambassador holds a press conference. The German ambassador in Cairo holds on Tuesday a press conference to announce the details of German Chancellor Angela Merkel's visit to Egypt next Thursday. The German ambassador said that the German Chancellor's visit is an important indicator to the vitality of German-Egyptian relations, which are not limited to the political and economic fields, but are also extended to the fields of culture, science, and civil society. The German ambassador expressed his hope that the visit gives new push to these relations, pointing out that this is the third visit for Merkel to Egypt after her previous visits in 2009. 2007. Earlier, Prime Minister Sharif Ismail held a coordination meeting to discuss the files associated with the German Chancellor's visit to Egypt. So this is an important event that is expected to take place by the end of the week. So to what extent this visit will give new push to Egyptian-German relations? A
great push, of course.
Yes.
German is the main gate for Europe.
Yes.
Central Europe, of course, and it's a very important step to be taken. We are welcoming Mrs. Merkel here in Cairo. But just to remember that we have also, should just remember the last time President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi was in Berlin.
Yes.
We have witnessed some, I don't want to say negative symptoms, but we are starting a new page with Germany. And we are really welcoming the German leader here.
Actually, Germany is one of the countries that lifted the travel bans on Egypt recently. It's a good sign.
Of course, too many people in Europe, too many millions in Europe really seek Egypt as a resort for terrorism and for relaxing, for visiting, communicating with the Egyptian people, of course.
And moving to Al-Watan, and we read the Russian Transport Minister expects the resumption of flights between Moscow and Cairo in March. The Russian Transport Minister Maxim Sokolov said on Monday that he expects the resumption of flights between Moscow and Cairo next March. In press remarks, he said that the Russian aviation security experts will inspect Hurghada and Sharm el-Sheikh airports during their next visit. Earlier, high-level Russian security delegations arrived in Egypt to follow up the security measures in the passenger terminals, which are allocated to the Russian passengers in the airports of Cairo, Sharm el-Sheikh and Hurghada after installing biometric devices. The visits came in preparation for the return of the Russian tourism to Egypt in the coming period. So, To what extent the return of Russian tourism to Egypt will give a boost to this vital sector?
They took a too long time to determine their opinion.
Decide, yes.
Although we have proved to each and every nation in the world that we are the safest country in the region, and we are basically capable of indulging and welcome any kind of any level of travel trips to Cairo, of course, and all over the country.
I'm moving to Al-Masri Al-Yom, and we read that Putin says Syria talks in Astana helped to revive Geneva talks. Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Monday that talks on consolidating the Syrian ceasefire held in Kazakhstan this year helped to jumpstart the United Nations-led peace negotiations in Geneva. At the first round of talks in Astana in January, Russia and ally of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad reaffirmed a ceasefire between insurgents and the Syrian government. Putin told reporters during a visit to Kazakhstan that a mechanism to control the ceasefire has been created, which is the most important thing. He added that this is the foundation that has allowed the Geneva negotiations to resume. Now, dear viewers, we'll have a look on a report about Geneva talks, so stay tuned.
At least 11 people on Monday. Opposition activists announced in the latest spasm of violence to mar UN brokered talks in Geneva between the government and the opposition. Separately, there were unconfirmed reports that a top Al-Qaeda official was killed in an airstrike also in Idlib. Also on Monday, pro-government forces drove Daesh militants out of a line of villages in the congested Turkish frontier region, blocking the path of rival Turkish-backed opposition forces from searching the de facto Daesh capital, Raqqa. The site intelligence group, which monitors extremist groups, said the deputy to Al-Qaeda leader may have been killed in U.S. airstrikes on an unmarked sedan on Sunday evening. The northwestern province falls largely under the control of the Qaeda-linked rebel coalition. Hundreds of thousands of Syrians displaced by fighting are living as refugees there. The Britain-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported that a top Al-Qaeda official was killed in a drone strike, but could not confirm the announcement.
Back to you, Mr. Amr, and how do you see developments in Syria?
I have too many reservations against negotiation with terrorism or terroristic coalition, whatsoever they call it. In the meantime, we have the Syrian delegation and the Russians negotiating with terroristic groups, which is I have too many reservations, as I said. At the same time, the Turkish army is occupying Elbab and threatening Halab to occupy it again. At the same time, we have witnessed more than 2 visits by military leaders, American military leaders, to the region, to Syria, to Iraq, and other places. Why? What are they preparing for the next stage? Are they longing for another interference in Syria, more interference, a face-to-face interference? This is not allowed in the region. No more interference in the region. We cannot allow, as Egypt, to negotiate with a terroristic group or whatsoever, the Muslim Brotherhood, the Al-Nusra, ISIS, whatever. We can only eliminate them.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Amr Abdel Rahman, political analyst, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, dear viewers, we'll go for a short break and we'll be back with the breakfast show, so stay tuned.